So with that said, Stacey King, he really cooked on this podcast, okay? He didn't just make those comments about mind the game. He really got into why Michael Jordan is the GOAT and why it's going to remain that way. And I want to talk about that with you guys. I think this is an important discussion to have. And salute to Mel and Man Down Sports. They actually talked about, whether or not Michael Jordan would be considered the GOAT forever until the test of time. And, I don't know. I don't believe in the GOAT in sports and team sports, really. I only believe in GOAT for tennis, golf, boxing, individual, players. I don't believe in it for team sports, but we continue to talk about the GOAT. The GOAT debate isn't going away. And, Stacey King gets into the GOAT debate and how he feels about it. And I want you guys to hear what he has to say. I'm curious if, one second, do I have the right, looks like I might not have. Oh, yes, here it is. So, the question really is, will Michael Jordan be the GOAT forever? I don't know the answer to that. I really don't. I do think that Michael Jordan is going to be considered the GOAT for a long time to come. That's for sure. I don't think it's ever going to be LeBron James, not unanimously, not undisputed. Like LeBron James is not going to be considered the GOAT of his own generation. So of all time is crazy. The GOAT of this current modern NBA is probably going to be Steph Curry. It's definitely not LeBron James. He didn't do enough to change the league, to influence the league as far as basketball is concerned. Most of his influence was all negative. But let's get into this next Stacey King clip. I really enjoyed it. I hope you guys too do as well, and we are going to react together.
It's funny that you mentioned the whole Jordan career with the Bulls. Last Monday it was like 100 degrees outside, and I'm like, I ain't doing anything. I'm just gonna sit, chill in the house. And ESPN News ran the whole Last Dance, so I'm sitting there watching this. I'm watching the whole thing, and you forget how good that show was. So well produced, so much information behind the scenes, and it's so funny hearing your former teammates talking about Jordan and how tough he was on guys in practice, and you call him a bully, and you've told stories punching guys in practice. He was a tyrant to play with, but he also wanted, like he said in the documentary, that I wanted all these guys to share in that success, and I wanted to pull them with me. And if you can't take it, then you can't play with him.
See, here's the thing that people don't understand about Michael, and to play with him, you have to understand this. Michael is the hardest working guy I've ever seen in my life. Okay, he approached practice like it was game situation. Nobody I've ever played with or played in the same team with practice as hard as Michael Jordan. And you ask any teammate all the way down the line, they would tell you he's the hardest working guy. First one in sprints, first one in drills, always beating everybody in the drills. Very competitive. The same things you see him in the game doing, he's doing it in practice to us. So younger players going up against us every day, you're getting the best Michael Jordan every day. You're getting the best Scottie Pippen every day. These are all-star caliber guys. So then when you go into a regular season game, and we're playing against the New York Knicks or Utah Jazz or all these star players, it doesn't faze us because we're going up against the best, and they're giving us their best every day to prepare us for what we're going to see during the regular season. That's why we won.
And now teams barely practice.
Teams barely practice, and then they complain about the season's too long. And it's just like, listen, man, you got to understand, most of us come from families where our parents had to work 2 or 3 jobs to get us to where we are today. Okay. We didn't have the money. I know my family didn't have the money to send me all these camps and stuff. My mom and dad had to stretch money and maybe go without things to get us to where we need to go. Okay. So it would be a disservice to anyone who didn't remember what their parents did to get them there. It'd be a disservice to them if you cut corners and you didn't work as hard as them and have the work ethic that they had. It's a slap in their face. And I think, these kids have to understand there's people come to these games and they want to see Michael Jordan. They want to see, Durant. They want to see LeBron James. This might be the only time they're able to see him. And they come to see the one game where you decide to have load management. Even if Michael never did that. Michael never set out games. If Michael set out a game, he made sure he played at least 25 minutes so you saw him play. Whether it be preseason, he didn't miss any regular season games. But during preseason where most stars sit out, he played. We played in Lincoln, Nebraska. We played in Sioux Falls. We played in some small venues to get the people who may not be able to get to a big city to see us. We go into those places and play. And most star players are not playing in Lincoln, Nebraska. I'm sitting out. Michael would play first and third quarter, 24 minutes to let people see, because he recognized, and Kobe's the same way, that this might be the only time that they're able to afford to see me play. And I want to make sure I put on a show. These guys nowadays, they don't look at it that way. The fans pay these anomalous, these crazy salaries. The fans, you owe the fans everything you got. And I mean, you do. Baseball, football, you owe fans to go out there and put an honest day's work out there. If you can play, you're not hurt, you owe it to fans to go out there and show that your appreciation for them. Now you get into this all talk radio, who cares about all that stuff? But I'm talking about the people who don't have the money to go see a game and can't afford to see a game live. When they come to see you play, and their kids are all excited, it's the only time they see the Lakers play in Chicago because you only come here once. Well, LeBron's out; he's sitting out. Load management. That has demoralized. And that was a lot of money. Those tickets are expensive to see the Lakers. Yeah. So he doesn't show up. Your kid's disappointed. He's not signing autographs, not taking pictures. He's on the bench eating a hot dog and leaving. And it's a disappointment. You saved up all that money for that one game, and that guy didn't show up.
Yeah, and in rewatching Last Dance, watching Scottie Pippen in Game 6 in 1998, he basically was crippled with those back spasms and gutting it out, and they were able to pull it out with the greatest sequence of all time with Jordan with the bucket, the steal of Karl Malone, and the jumper over Brian Russell. So that was just fun to watch it again. And when you go back to the argument, the whole GOAT argument, Bulls 6-0 in the finals and never taken to a seventh game.
And it's funny because you listen to all these LeBron, loyalists. LeBron never beat Larry. I mean, Michael never beat Larry Bird and never beat Isaiah. Well, no, he didn't beat them his first 6 or 7 years in the league. He had to get a team around him to be able to challenge those guys. And when he did, he beat them. Of course, the Celtics were older, and we didn't have to play them in the series. That was always Detroit and Boston playing each other. But our series was Cleveland and New York and Detroit. Those are the teams we had to beat. And once we got through those teams, like who's gonna mess with you? Because we could have easily beat Detroit like we did and swept them, 91, and then went out there and let the Lakers, run roughshod over us. But it didn't happen. Lakers come in and steal game one, didn't win another one.
It was funny. Some of the best parts of the documentary are when they hand the iPad over to Michael to see what other people said. Yeah, and Isaiah Thomas trying to justify walking off after getting swept, and he's just cackling. And then Gary Payton saying, well, if I would have been defending him in 96, that would have been a whole different series. And he goes, yeah, the glove. And he just laughs at
and listen, Gary Payton, the only way you're going to be able to guard Michael Jordan if you kidnapped him before he left his house and you had 10 people with you, tied him up, and he wasn't able to go to the game. That's the only way you're going to guard him because nobody was guarding MJ during that time. Nobody. And when he gets to the NBA Finals, listen, here's the argument right here. If you got one person to take the game-winning shot out of LeBron and Michael, who you gonna bet on? Who you gonna bet on?
Michael all the time.
I guarantee you. Listen, I also say this too. This tells you the popularity of a player. You don't see people walking around LeBron's shoes.
Right.
Michael Jordan's shoes outsells all superstar players combined. That's how he's still relevant in this league. And that Last Dance documentary only really solidified him on another level. I always tell people, you want to see Michael pre-championships? Go watch the video, Come Fly With Me.
Yeah, oh my God.
If you want to see a very young Michael's first 6 or 7 years in the league and see how dominant he was, his third game, I saw a video the other day, third game of his NBA career, he's going up against the Defensive Player of the Year, Sidney Moncrief in Milwaukee, and gave him like 38.
Yeah.
His third game,
average 38.
Third game as a rookie, he gave the defensive player all defensive guard, Sidney Moncrief. Do your homework. Sidney Moncrief was no joke defensively.
Right.
Gave him 38, third game of the year.
Yeah, if you get a chance, go back and rewatch it. It is just
Come Fly With Me, America. Yeah. That's your homework. Go watch. Don't forget The Last Dance. You already saw it. If you want to see Michael, a young Michael, that's when I saw him in college. That's when I became a huge fan of Come Fly With Me. Go watch Come Fly With Me.
Definitely. Check that out.
Stacey King cooked. Okay. LeBarb's fans, I don't know what they're going to do. They're on the run. What's the response? How do LeBron James fans reconcile all of that? How do modern day NBA players reconcile a take like that? What can you say to that? Michael Jordan didn't take off games, and he wanted to play for the fans. He loved the fans. And, when you think about who allows for NBA players to make all the money they make, it's the fans. But they can't show up for us. They can't even make it to an all-star game. They can't play 50 games even. It's a chore for them to make it to 65 games. Stacey King said a lot. He said a whole lot. He talked about Michael Jordan's influence, his brand influence, and just how much of a staple he is. When you think about it, Michael Jordan, people have been wearing, when he was in the league, his sneakers were hot when he was playing. Since he's been retired, nobody stopped wearing them. We've only immortalized them, and Michael Jordan even more. The Last Dance documentary, I think it was something that solidified Jordan as the GOAT. It just made young kids today see that what we're watching today is nothing in comparison to what we saw in the 90s. It's nothing in comparison to what we saw Michael Jordan do. and what we just haven't been able to see anybody else duplicate, unfortunately. And so, the question is, will Michael Jordan be the GOAT forever? I think yes. I think Michael Jordan's going to be the GOAT forever, guys. I really do. And something that I just think that really separates Michael Jordan from any of the NBA players today is one that he loved the game. His true love for the game. He was willing to lace up anywhere and play. He wanted the smoke. He never ducked a competition. He loved it. He loved the sport so much. He would play in the summer. He played in preseason games. Guys don't do that anymore. They're too much of a diva. They're too good to do it. At this point in my career, I shouldn't be playing in preseason games. I shouldn't even be there. LeBron James not only does he not want to play in a preseason game, God forbid he did that, he doesn't even want to show up to support the team. He calls himself a good guy for sitting on the side, supporting the young guys, for supporting his team, for supporting his franchise. Oh no, he shouldn't even be there at this point in his career. When are we going to pack these guys up? When are we going to pack these players up? But Michael Jordan, his presence, his stature, his personality, he was class personified. Him, Dr. J, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, they were so classy as far as how they speak to the media, as far as how they carry themselves and talk about former NBA players and just their league in general. They have so much respect for other NBA players, and you don't see that anymore. Gone are the days where you pay homage. Gone are the days where you respect those that came before you. That's not happening anymore. Older generation isn't getting any credit for what they've been able to do for guys today. It's just not happening. And Michael Jordan, he had so much respect. He revered the players that came before him so much. He didn't miss a chance to congratulate them, give them credit, to make sure that everybody knew there would never be a Michael Jordan if there weren't those that came before him that paved the way so that he could be more entertaining, so that he could become a global star. He owes that to those that had to struggle even harder than he did. And he doesn't he doesn't forget to share that. In 1999, after Michael Jordan retired the second time, which, I thought that was going to be his final time. He got an award from Sports Illustrated. He got the Basketball Player of the Century, not of the decade, the century. And when he won this award, he had a speech that I'm not going to lie, when I saw it, it made me think of Colin Cowherd and how he said that Michael Jordan makes you feel things. I'm not going to lie, guys, when I saw this clip, I teared up a little bit because it made me feel so proud. It made me feel proud that I was able to grow up during a time where I got to see really great basketball. And it just made me feel grateful, and it made me just think, okay, this is just one of the reasons why Michael Jordan is going to be cemented in the hearts of NBA fans and of, in the fraternity of the league. And so here's this short speech that he had accepting this Player of the Century award. And I want you guys to hear it. We'll react together. But, this is just a small reason why I think that Michael Jordan is going to be the GOAT forever, minus the shoes and his actual accomplishments and play on the court. I mean, just look at him.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good to be back in the Garden. Always good to be in the Garden. Thank you very much. I expected that as well. That means I did my job well when I came here. I would be remiss not to thank all the other recipients tonight, all the nominees. It's truly a privilege for me to be here. But when you see Michael Jordan, I'm a product of modern basketball, modern technology. But all the great achievements comes from Oscar Robertson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, Bob Cousy, all these athletes, all the basketball players way before Michael Jordan. I just got the fruit of the labor, I guess. I learned so much from these guys watching them, and I've kind of gained more of the publicity and more of the notoriety because of me learning from what they have done years way before me. And I want to give them the proper respect and a thank you for allowing me to do my job the way I did my job. Thank you very much.
I love that video. You see the old heads in the crowd. You see Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. You see Bill Russell. And it's so special. And Michael Jordan, he was a classy guy. Athletes, a lot of times you want your play and you want your talent to speak for itself, and you want others to talk about you. You want others to recognize you. And especially in a team sport, I just don't think there's really any true place for the GOAT discussion. But I just thought that it was really interesting that Michael Jordan was even gracious to New York fans. Michael Jordan, he just has this level of genuine authenticity that people really enjoy. I mean, even his bald head. I mean, he had one of the most beautiful bald heads that we've ever seen. He made NBA players across the league go bald. LeBron James is out here rocking a lace front wig. It's just, they are not the same. Okay, there's levels to this. And Michael Jordan, you just see him standing there, and he's so humble and he's so shy to accept that award, and he looks so handsome in that suit, and he's just really, he's giving credit. He's standing there taking acceptance of an award of being the player of the century, and he's still giving credit to everybody else because he knows he wouldn't have been standing there without those guys, and he's grateful for that. And I thought it was so funny, even when the New York City fans were booing him because he's Michael Jordan, he's done some damage in the Garden, and even that moment was humbling for him. And he's even gracious to the New York fans. So I agree that Michael Jordan is likely to be the GOAT forever. If we're going to continue to have this conversation for as long as it continues, I think that he's going to be the GOAT. Rookie Kobe came in bald like Mike. Froby was trying to be his own man. I'm weak. You guys are so funny, man. I wear Jordans, Kobe's, and Penny Hardaway shoes. Labia shoes will probably have me flopping like I need 2 more free throws or something. Look how MJ dresses, speaks pure class. LeBum speaks and dressed like a homeless dude. I mean, it's apples and oranges. You see the very clear differences. Michael Jordan really, he set a standard for class in the NBA, and LeBron James just doesn't have any of that. He doesn't have the language skills. He didn't go to college. I know you guys saw one of my latest videos with Kenny the Jet Smith. He talked about how Michael Jordan was just so much better than everybody else because he went to college. He did 3 years in college. And, if he didn't, would he have had an even better career if he only did 1 year in college? If he came out into the NBA, maybe he would have done so much better. But I think that, LeBron James not having had any college, and I suspect he barely did any high school. When you're that good in sports, you typically have girls doing your homework, or the coach finds somebody to do your homework, and school isn't much of a focus for you because you don't need it. And I mean, that's why we see LeBron James not having the language skills or the reading skills of a 5th grader. His family, I think between the entire James family, they have less than 1 year of college education. So they're all kind of walking around with a lack of education. We know he doesn't read. We know he can't speak very well. A all, B all. He just doesn't have very good language and speech. So, Michael Jordan, he just shows up better in every turn. And he's just so much more aware. And the emotional intelligence is there. When I see and look at LeBron James, I just see somebody who's tone deaf. I see someone who has, no care in the world for the way that they are ruining the sport, the culture of the sport, and how we talk about it. So salute to Stacey King. I really love his podcast and, and how he's coming in, bringing the heat, speaking the truth, not being afraid to do that. He clearly has no skin in the game. He's just, he's an ex-teammate of Michael Jordan's, and he wants to not just stand on business, but he wants to make sure that people are remembering the sport in the right way, remembering the Bulls and their team and Michael Jordan the right way. And I don't blame him for wanting that. I don't blame him for wanting to right the wrongs and correct some of the, the lies and the narratives that have been put out there by LeBron James, Clutch Sports, and the La Media. So let's see. Salute to Beach Girl Carly. How are you doing? You would think LeBron James would have gone back to school to get a degree. SMH. You would think. I believe his wife did. I think Savannah went back to school. She might have a master's degree. I don't quote me on that. I could be thinking of someone else, but Kobe Bryant speaks 8 languages. He spoke 8 languages, I believe, and he didn't even go to college. And look how he spoke. Look how he carried himself. Even Kevin Garnett, I think he spoke and carries himself much better. But again, back then, and another thing that I think, we don't touch upon enough is that back then, they were real adults. Even coming into the league at 18, you were much more of a man than today's 18-year-old is. 18-year-olds back in the 90s or the 80s, they had to be men much earlier in their lives than today's 18, 19-year-old players are. I just think that, 18 and 19-year-olds back in the day, they saw much more, they went through much more. And they didn't have as many privileges and luxuries as today's 18, 19-year-olds are getting. So I just think we're in different times. I think that we had more masculine men as well back then. So today's men are carrying purses, wearing nail polish, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. It's just that we're seeing a lot more differences. We're seeing men tap into a more stylish, more what's typically considered to be feminine side. We see them with long hair. We see them dyeing their locks. I mean, it's just, we see a lot more focus and attention to appearance, things that are considered more feminine. And so, back then, like I said, we had more masculinity happening, and now we have a lot less of that. And so we're seeing guys that are just they're just much different. The league is a lot different. And when you think about the things that LeBron James, Kevin Durant said on Mind the Game, when you think about the way that Michael Jordan talks about the players that came before him, even when they were dissing him, when Wilt Chamberlain was coming out saying he wasn't the greatest of all time, coming out there saying that they had to change the rules for him, saying that Michael Jordan would have been crushed in his era, Michael Jordan heard all of that. He used all of those narratives, all of that criticism that he was getting to just make himself better, to work harder, to get out there and win. He didn't have any excuses. He didn't try to clap back at them, because what was that going to do for him? What was that going to do for his game and where his career was headed? Nothing. All that he would have accomplished was talking back to the big homie, which you don't need to do. I mean, growing up in my household, it wasn't allowed for me to talk back to my parents or an elder, or to say something rude to them. So it's so off-putting when LeBron James, Kevin Durant, they have all this mouth and lip for guys who are way older than them and pave the way for them to be doing what they're doing now. And for some reason, they think that they're better than people because they have all this money, when really and truly they're still a lame. Kevin Durant is I don't know, does he have Asperger's or something? He's almost 40 years old. He's got no wife. You're a lame. That's what you are. Talking like this, behaving like this, all this money in your pocket, you want to sit there and act like you're better than other people. No, LeBron James, a billionaire lame. But so many people have been going viral this week surrounding comments around LeBron James, and